In today's video, we're going to be talking about food safety, mainly an introduction to food safety. So the first question we need to ask ourselves is, well, what is food safety? Now, food safety is anything that we've put into place to make the food safe. So this could be anything from ensuring things aren't cross-contaminated, ensuring we have a good personal hygiene, making sure we're cooking things effectively, cleaning things effectively. It's essentially a broad range of different subjects, but it goes a bit more in-depth as just simple terms like that. So we need to ask now is, why is food safety important? Well, food is something that we need to survive, and we also classify things like water as part of our food safety. So we need to make sure that, for instance, the food that we buy from shops is going to be safe. We need to make sure that the water that comes out of the taps are safe, and then we need to make sure that when we're eating out at cafes and restaurants, that the food there is safe. So it's a lot to sort of think about. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to be looking for our individual hazards. So we've understood what food safety is. Now we need to understand what are the hazards associated with food safety so that we can draw together a plan of action. And we have 4 types of hazard that we are looking for in food safety. The first is physical hazards. Now this may be some pieces of hair, a piece of glass, some wood, etc. And what we're trying to avoid is people ingesting it, choking or damaging themselves internally. Next, we're looking at chemical. Now this will generally be focused around cleaning chemicals and avoiding the use of bleach in food areas. But then we're also looking on the chemical side of agriculture, which may use pesticides to protect their crops. We need to be thinking, okay, is this pesticide going to result in somebody becoming unwell from eating contaminated food? Next we have the big one, which is the microbiological. Now we always refer these to as pathogens, as pathogen is the Latin for harmful, etc. And we have 3 different areas that we're mainly looking at, but there are various different others. The first area is your bacteria. So this may be Salmonella, E. coli 0157, Campylobacter, Clostridium botulinum, Listeria monocytogenes. And what we're looking for is, what are these bacteria's characteristics? How do they survive? Are they heat sensitive? Do they have a certain pH level they prefer, etc.? But then we're also looking at viruses. Now viruses are different to bacteria, as viruses replicate off living cells, whereas bacteria, they consume food, moisture, and have an appropriate level of warmth to then multiply. Now the last hazard we look at is from allergenic. So this may be from the food itself, but it may also be from other areas. So for instance, latex gloves. And this tends to be a concerning area because if someone has an allergic reaction to something which results in the massive release of histamine, a person can become a fatality in a matter of minutes. So we know what the hazards are. Now we need to think is, how are we going to make this food safe? And we could do this in a number of areas, mainly things like personal hygiene, avoiding cross-contamination, good effective cleaning. But before we do this, we need to create an action plan. And this is done by a system called HACCP. So the way that we make food safe is by conducting this, which is a hazard analysis critical control points. And it's sort of split into 2 different sections, where we have the hazard analysis, where we're looking at what the hazards are, and then we're defining what the critical control points are. And then it's split down into 3 main areas, which are, you're looking at what your hazards are. So it might be a physical hazard, a chemical hazard, a pathogenic hazard, so bacteria, viruses, or an allergenic hazard. Then we're going to establish our critical control points. So this might be cooking the food, washing salad, etc. And then we have the final area, which is we're going to establish our critical corrective actions. So our corrective actions is where something has gone seriously wrong. So it might be that food has been recalled for not being cooked enough, or there might be an allergenic contamination of the food, etc. And what we would do is we would establish on every single individual piece of food what the risks are and what the hazards are. So here we have a chicken. So we know that the hazards are going to be Salmonella, Campylobacter and E. coli. But these are just the bacteria. If we think about physical hazards, chicken naturally has bone in. So if it's got bone in, we've got the chances of physical hazard. So what we do is we collect our information, like here, we have our Salmonella Campylobacter E. coli. We know in food safety that if we cook it to 75 degrees Celsius, the heat will kill all these bacteria. And then we move to stage 3, a corrective action. And we'd say, okay, if it's not been cooked to 75 degrees Celsius, continue cooking. But sadly, food safety is not as simple as that. We have many different areas to think about, from the human factor to the different types of food to cooling it down. And we also have things which bacteria produce, which is known as spores. And if bacteria produce spores, normal heating methods, such like 75 degrees Celsius, will not be effective enough to kill the bacteria. But that is just a simple nutshell of it. So in this video, we've gone over a brief introduction to what food safety is. But that's barely scratching the surface. There's still thousands of more different things we need to learn before we fully understand what food safety is. And if you've enjoyed this video, why not head over to HSE People, where you'll find plenty of articles on food safety and more videos like this. And thank you very much for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you all next time.